broadly divided into microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics deals with the study of individual economic units. And what we mean by individual economic units, that means we are looking at individual consumers, individual firms that we call producers. We are looking at governments as an individual entity, and we're trying to see, or we're trying to study their economic behaviors. So that's microeconomics, studying economics at unit level. And by unit level, we are looking at consumers individually, producers individually, and all the other economic agents. That is looking at it from the point of view of all the firms that are operating within a particular economy. So, like I said also, the first two readings, we are going to be focusing on microeconomics. That means we are going to be speaking with respect to individual consumers, individual firms, and stuff like that. So for this particular first reading, we're going to be dealing with demand and supply analysis. And the way I take my classes is the LOS, each of the learning objective statements, one after the other. So for example, the first one we'll be looking at today will be how to calculate and interpret price, income, and cross-price elasticities of demand. And then we're also going to try to describe the factors that affect each of these measures. Then secondly, we'll talk about what we call substitution and income effects. Then we're also expected to be able to distinguish between normal goods and inferior goods. Then we're expected to be able to describe the phenomenon of diminishing marginal returns. Now you would observe that the first three LOS is looking at, we are studying economics from the point of view of the consumer. That's why we're talking about things such as elasticities of demand, substitution and income effects, looking at it from the point of view of the consumer, that is you and I. However, the last three, which is LOS, D, E, F, we're trying to look at the study of economics from the point of view of a producer. And that's why we start to talk about phenomenon like diminishing marginal returns. What exactly does that mean? And at the end of the day, we must be able to describe diminishing marginal returns. Then we're also expected to be able to determine and interpret break-even and shutdown points of production. Here we'll be talking about at what point are we going to say a particular firm has broken even, and at what point are we going to advise a particular firm to shut down their production. So we're going to study all of these. And then lastly, in this reading, we're going to look at a description of the economies and diseconomies of scale and how that affects the cost of production. So moving on to the very first LOS, which says calculate and interpret price, income, and cross-price elasticities of demand. So before we go into the calculation, can someone remind me what the law of demand is? Yes, I'm with you, sir.
The law of demand. The law of demand says the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded
Of a particular good, yeah.
Yes, and the higher the price, the higher the supply of that same goods.
That's the law of supply. Yeah. All right, thank you. This LOS is not asking us about law of demand, but it is a nice to know. And the reason I asked for the definition of law of demand is because I wanted to use that as a basis for explaining what elasticity means. So before we go into price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, and cross-price elasticity of demand, the first thing is to even see what elasticity means or how elasticity is calculated. When you say price elasticity of demand, what do you mean? From the law of demand, we know that increase in price will lead to decrease in quantity demanded. But it doesn't tell us how much of a percentage change in quantity demanded we should expect for maybe a 1% rise in the price of a commodity. To answer this question, we need to calculate the price elasticity of demand. And by the time we calculate, based on the result that we get, we need to be able to interpret what that result tells us. Does it tell us that the commodity is elastic, is price elastic in its demand, or does it tell us that the commodity is inelastic? So these are some of the things that we'll be able to answer. Now we'll talk about income elasticity of demand. What we're trying to relate is quantity demanded of a particular commodity to changes in our income.
I think because allowing people more time to respond to changing price, will be able to find like appropriate substitutes, and if they can find appropriate substitutes, their demand, because the price has increased, will get lower. Say for instance, I want to buy aerial, and I'll find out that the aerial has increased from 1,000 naira to 2,000 naira. But I really need it urgently. I might just forget about the price and buy it like that. Maybe something I don't need immediately, I might just say, okay, you know what, let me just use my time to look for something more affordable. So that's how I think about it.
Correct. I'm sure that is clear enough and doesn't require any other explanation. Or the greater the degree of substitutability, the greater the elasticity of demand. We also established the fact that the greater the portion of your budget that you spend on a particular commodity, the greater will be the elasticity of demand for that commodity. Just now, we just finished speaking on the time factor, that the more time you have to be able to respond to a change in price, the greater the elasticity that you expect from that particular commodity. Then lastly, the extent to which a particular good is deemed necessary. We said the greater the extent to which you feel that particular good is necessary, the more is it elastic or inelastic will be the demand. So there's something that
inelastic.
Why? Can someone explain?
So I think
let me take it. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You already explained it when you. I think you already explained it when you were making reference to your tailor disappointing you and you having very short time to make a decision.
All right.
So because you know you have to get something good for your wedding, you have no choice. So you just have to get that sorted out immediately. So it becomes an inelastic demand.
Exactly. These questions would help us in determining or would affect the elasticity of demand for that commodity. Minus 0.5. Then what that tells you is that a 1% change in the price of that commodity results in a less than 1% change in quantity demanded. So you say this particular commodity is inelastic, or consumers are inelastic in their demand for this particular commodity. I already spoke to the fact that you can have an elasticity figure of 0. That means regardless of the changes in price, quantity does not change. In that case, you would say this particular commodity or consumers are perfectly inelastic in their demand for this commodity. If you like, change price from now till tomorrow, the quantity demanded remains the same. And then I already spoke about the perfectly elastic demand. That means a very small change in price will lead to a very large change in quantity demanded. You say, this guy is perfectly elastic.